Hey, Real Academics, Maggie here. I wanted to talk today about the relationship between music or musicians and writing or academic writers. So I previously posted a blog on this. I'll drop it down in the comments in case you want to read that. But in this video, I wanted to sort of just talk through the three highlighting points for those who prefer video or just want to hear it in a different way. And the first is when I thought about well-known musicians or famous musicians. I'm not saying I want to be a famous academic writer. I'm just thinking of ideals like, oh my gosh, who are the greats, right? Like, what is unique about them? And they really are unique in that usually I think, oh my gosh, they have a very unique voice. If I heard that artist on the radio, I would immediately recognize their voice. It's quite distinct. So I thought about voice in my own writing. Now, I realize a lot of academic writing is pretty standard, and we're asked to be fairly objective and neutral sounding. But there are spaces in our manuscripts where we can be a little more personal with voice, especially if we write qualitative. But I think even in quantitative pieces, when you're writing your intro, making your argument, perhaps in your discussion section. So I just want you to think about your own voice. And if anything, we want at least our writing to be clear, interesting, and if possible, unique where it makes sense. So I just wanted to encourage you to think about that. The second point, as I was thinking about this relationship, was that the best songs that I can think of that have lasted, like have been sung over and over, like for years, like more than 50 years, were written by like the artists themselves. Now, I know there are some classic songs written by unknown writers and then some famous musician sings it. But a lot of the ones I was looking at were actually written by the singer slash musician themselves about something really meaningful and personal. So I think there's something to be said about that in being an academic writer and the kind of work we produce. I know for me personally, my most read or cited pieces are things that came from really passionate subjects of mine. And I guess it just came through in the writing and the research. So I want to encourage you to think about that as well. The last point I thought about is just I'm going to butcher this word, longevity of career. And I think that's something we need to think about as academic writers, because it's not an easy thing to do for a long time, to constantly produce research and writing that's productive, right? And so I thought, well, how do these musicians do it? I mean, the ones that have been like, started like when they were children and now they're in their 70s and they still sell out stadiums and they still sing songs from like that they wrote in their 20s, right? And even recent songs they've written, right? And I'm like, well, how did they do that? Well, I just thought, again, it goes back to that meaning, right? But it also goes back to, I think, at least from looking at musicians and songwriters, is that they laid a foundation and they built on that. So early in their career, it helps with age, but even if you start a graduate career later in life, I think a lot of times whatever we study is somehow rooted in something really meaningful and important for us. Maybe when we were younger, my field's education. So a lot of people in this field of education had questions when they started off as young teachers, and they just wanted to answer those questions, and they've built their research on answering those questions, but they're really meaningful and deep to them because they dealt with them early on. So anyhow, the idea is to have an anchoring foundation to your work. I think that helps a lot with longevity of career and sustainability. So I hope these 3 points were helpful. If you're still watching, I'd love for you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, to give it a thumbs up, to share it. And then it'd be awesome if you'd comment. I'd love to know what kind of music maybe you grew up with, what music inspires you. and how you view the connection between music, musicians, and writing slash academic writers, if at all, if at all. If you've never thought about it, now's a good chance to think about it. So, all right, until next time, happy writing, productivity, and truth seeking, and I'll talk to you later.